The courtroom had been buzzing all week. Diddy's investigation had already rocked the entertainment world, dragging hidden PR deals, fake scandals, and reputation games out into the light. But today's hearing felt more electric than usual. The kind of tension you could feel in your chest before anyone said a word. Everyone thought the bombshell had already dropped. They were wrong, because he hadn't mentioned her yet. The judge sat quietly, reading over a sealed document just handed to him minutes before the session began. Diddy sat in his usual seat, wearing an orange prison jumpsuit, his posture still confident despite the circumstances. He had been arrested weeks earlier, not for the trial itself, but due to a technicality in an unrelated licensing case. Still, he didn't look defeated. He looked ready. A quiet hush fell across the room as the judge cleared his throat. This court has just received a new name connected to ongoing narrative manipulation efforts surrounding Mr. Combs, the judge said, lifting the paper slightly. This document includes references to an individual known publicly as Ice Spice. Gasps echoed from the gallery. Reporters scrambled. Cameras clicked like gunfire outside the closed courtroom doors. Even Diddy's expression, usually calm, shifted slightly. A twitch of the jaw, a narrowing of his eyes. He stood up slowly. "I didn't want to bring her into this," he said, voice low but steady. "But when the truth is drowning, you don't get to choose who can swim anymore." The courtroom was stunned. For weeks, Ice Spice's name had remained untouched by the trial. She hadn't been listed in any filings, no leaks, no drama. She stayed silent, focused, or so it seemed. But now her name was in the air, and in the evidence. Diddy stepped forward and handed a printed email chain to the court clerk. "This thread," he said, "came from a whistleblower inside a New York media firm that handled both Ice Spice and Olivia Rodrigo's early career press rollouts. It shows coordination between their teams during the height of the smear campaign that took me off the face of certain platforms." He paused. "Emails that reference me as a legacy threat. Emails that say I should be handled, or worse, replaced." The judge reviewed the documents. From PR lead at launchcurve.com to Team Spice, Team Rodrigo. Date: May 3rd, 2022. If we position Diddy as outdated, it opens the door for both girls to stand as fresh voices. Media will eat it up. Ice's Bronx roots make her a perfect contrast. Sean has too many chapters. It's time to write him out. The words hung in the room like smoke. A reporter in the back muttered, "They really said that?" Selena's team, still reeling from her own fallout in the case, sat expressionless. The courtroom, already tired from scandal after scandal, now had a new story to chase. But Diddy wasn't finished. "This isn't just about music," he said. "This is about control, about pushing voices aside because they make too much noise outside the studio, about trading legacy for market trends." He turned to the judge. "She may not have written the emails, but her silence let them circulate." Outside the courtroom, the internet exploded. Ice Spice leaks. Diddy named her. Handle the truth. Clips of Diddy speaking spread across every platform in minutes. Fan pages shifted gears. Analysts on YouTube live-streamed the moment and broke down every word. And Ice Spice? She was quiet. At first, no statement, no tweet, no response. Until 1 hour later, a video was uploaded to her verified Instagram story, just 17 seconds long. Her voice, shaky but clear. "I didn't know, not at the time, but I'm not gonna pretend I didn't benefit. I'll speak when it's time, I promise." Then the video cut to black. But that was enough. The world now knew she was involved. Back in court, Diddy was handed another sheet of paper by his lawyer. He read it silently, then looked back up. "I have one more piece," he said. "A list of outlets that received early access to anti-legacy narratives, keyworded for Ice Spice's rise." He held it up. People Magazine, Complex, Buzztone, all the coverage that made me disappear while someone else appeared in my place. The judge nodded. "This court will review these claims in full. Ms. Ice Spice is now considered a relevant party. A formal request for comment will be issued." He banged the gavel once. "Session adjourned." Diddy didn't smile. He didn't smirk. He just walked out the courtroom, head high, but heart heavier than ever. Because this wasn't about exposing another star, it was about realizing how many of them benefited while pretending not to know. By the next morning, the news cycle was relentless. Diddy's courtroom admission had become global. Headlines were everywhere, from music blogs to primetime news. And in the center of it all now stood Ice Spice, a name that had once been untouchable in controversy. But that changed the moment the subpoena arrived. Delivered by hand to her management team in Manhattan, it was official. She was now legally required to appear at the next session of Diddy's trial. Her world, once fast, stylish, curated, suddenly slowed down. The pink lights of her dressing room didn't glow the same. Her phone buzzed, but her fingers froze over the screen. Messages came in by the hundreds, from publicists, artists, brand reps, even a few fellow celebrities whispering support or disapproval. She read one text over and over again from an unknown number. You knew. Even if you didn't write it, you knew. Inside her penthouse, her legal team and PR reps sat in silence. They had been working with Ice Spice for over a year, crafting her meteoric rise. From viral Bronx freestyles to Grammy red carpets, everything had been smooth, polished, and protected. But now the plan was cracked open. Her lead publicist, Maya, finally broke the silence. "We have two choices," she said. "We claim full denial and say you were completely unaware, or we prepare you to take the stand and tell the partial truth." Ice stared out the window. "What's the partial truth?" she asked softly. "That you never saw the emails directly, but you heard whispers. You chose not to dig." Ice didn't respond. She just kept staring, not at the sky, but at her reflection in the window glass. Her face didn't look powerful today. It looked cornered. Back at the courthouse, the judge reviewed new materials submitted by Diddy's team. A Bronx-based journalist, Marcus Reed, had come forward after watching the viral footage. He claimed to have been present during early conversations about media strategy involving Ice Spice's branding in 2021. and was now willing to testify. "I didn't think it mattered back then," Marcus told reporters. "But when I saw Diddy's face in court, I realized it did." His statement was bold, and what he was about to say would flip the courtroom on its head. 2 days later, the hearing resumed. Ice Spice arrived in a black hoodie, sunglasses on, walking through the back entrance to avoid the massive press crowd. Her legal team surrounded her like a wall, but she looked small, fragile, unprepared. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Diddy wore the same orange prison jumpsuit, but this time he didn't look forward. He didn't even acknowledge her. It wasn't about drama anymore. It was about disappointment. The judge called Marcus Reed to the stand, tall, confident, holding a single notebook in his hand. Marcus swore in and began. "I attended a roundtable strategy session in 2021 at a Soho media loft," he began. "Ice Spice was there. So were 3 other publicists and 1 executive from Launch Curve PR. He opened the notebook. The conversation centered on building Ice's underdog versus legacy narrative. It was said that old-school names needed to be phased out to help new voices rise. He flipped to another page. One woman said, quote, "We don't attack Diddy directly. We just build the idea that he's obsolete. Culture moves forward. He's stuck in 2005. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. "Was Ice Spice directly involved in this conversation?" the judge asked. Marcus hesitated. "She didn't speak much, but she nodded. She smiled at the idea of being the fresh face. She heard everything." Ice's lawyer immediately objected. "Your Honor, this is hearsay and speculative body language analysis." But Marcus cut in. "I wrote down a direct quote from her," he said. "It stuck with me because it felt so rehearsed." He held up his notebook. "If the game's rigged, I might as well play it better." Ice Spice, July 17th, 2021. The courtroom fell silent again. And Ice? She didn't deny it. She didn't look up. After court, Ice Spice released an official statement. "I was young. I was hungry. And I trusted a system that said erasing someone else's story would help me write mine. I didn't plan the smear campaigns, but I didn't stop them. And that's on me. I'll speak fully at the next hearing." Some fans supported her honesty. Others weren't so forgiving. "We made you viral, not silent. Diddy walked so you could run. Now you act like he never existed." Diddy remained quiet. He left court without a statement. But his lawyer hinted at what was next. "Mr. Combs will be presenting a digital timeline of erasure, one showing exactly when Ice Spice's rise aligned with media suppression of his name, voice, and projects. It will show how the industry turned whispers into weapons." And the judge? He issued a rare remark as court adjourned. "Truth often moves slowly, but once it enters the room, it doesn't leave." The courtroom felt colder that day, not because of the weather. The air conditioning hadn't changed, but something had shifted. Ice Spice, now fully entangled in the media manipulation scandal that had rocked the entertainment world, was about to do what no one expected.
Take the stand. No prepared statement, no video upload, just her voice, raw and direct. The judge called the room to order. Cameras were not allowed during testimony, but that didn't stop journalists from filling every seat, their pens ready, eyes locked. Ice walked to the stand in a dark gray suit, hair tied back in a loose ponytail. Her usual bold aesthetic was gone. This wasn't about fashion. It was about truth. She took the oath with a trembling hand, then looked at the judge. I was 21 when they told me I'd never make it unless I distanced myself from the people who came before me. Her voice cracked slightly. They told me Diddy was old news, that his name carried weight but not value. They said being close to him would make me look like a shadow. And I wanted to shine. She took a breath. I didn't write the emails, but I didn't question them either. And for that, I'm sorry. Diddy, sitting still in his orange jumpsuit, didn't blink. But he leaned forward slightly. The prosecutor stepped up. Mrs. Spice, did you benefit professionally from the narrative that Mr. Combs was irrelevant? Ice nodded slowly. Yes. Did you knowingly allow your team to push that narrative in press kits, brand negotiations, or public appearances? She hesitated. Then, yes, I didn't stop them. Why not? Because I wanted to win, and because I thought maybe he'd never know. That sentence made the entire courtroom fall silent. Because in those words was the truth about the entire industry. Not evil. Just ambition without accountability. The judge turned to Ice. Do you understand that remaining silent while benefiting from harm done to others is still a form of complicity? Yes, Your Honor. Her voice was quieter now. And I'm ready to accept that. But court was far from over. Right as the judge began to close her testimony, a court official ran to the bench with a flash drive, whispered something urgent. The judge frowned, then addressed the courtroom. A new piece of evidence has been submitted. This appears to be a video clip obtained from a private industry event. He paused. It was filmed without the knowledge of most attendees, but it's legally admissible due to its relevance and timing. He inserted the flash drive into the monitor and pressed play. The video. The clip began at a rooftop lounge in Los Angeles. Music in the background. Dim lights. Laughter. The year was 2021. The video panned to a circle of music executives, influencers, and rising stars. Ice Spice stood among them, drink in hand, laughing at something just off screen. A woman leaned in close and said, "They want her to be the anti-Diddy, Bronx but polished, edge but safe. The algorithm eats it up." Another man added, "He's too real. They want curated now." Ice didn't say anything, but she looked straight into the camera as if sensing something. Then she said, "Well, if they're going to erase a legend, guess I better be worth the ink." Gasps filled the courtroom as the video ended. The judge turned off the screen. Ice froze. The words echoed louder now, recorded and replayed in front of a judge, lawyers, fans, and Diddy himself. She tried to speak. "I was drunk. I didn't know I was being recorded. I didn't—" But Diddy stood up calmly. "You weren't drunk," he said. "You were ambitious, and ambition isn't a crime until it steps over someone else's name." Before anyone could respond, the judge motioned to the gallery. "There is one more person scheduled to speak." From the back of the room, a figure stepped forward. Someone the world hadn't seen in months. Cassie Ventura. Former protege, former partner. Someone who knew Diddy before the world twisted his image into something else. She walked with quiet grace, dressed in black, a simple chain around her neck. The courtroom stiffened. Even Diddy's jaw clenched slightly. Cassie nodded at the judge. "I'm not here to defend Sean Combs," she said. "I'm here because I know what it feels like to have your narrative taken from you." She turned to Ice Spice. "You didn't invent the game, but you played it. And deep down, you knew it wasn't fair. The system doesn't need more silence. It needs women strong enough to speak when they benefit, not just when they're blamed." Ice looked away. For the first time, tears formed. After court adjourned, no one spoke. No one ran to cameras. There was no press release. Just a growing awareness that this wasn't about Diddy or Ice Spice anymore. This was about how fame feeds on forgotten truths. And finally, the truth had found a mic. The courthouse emptied slowly that afternoon. Outside, reporters whispered instead of shouting. Cameramen zoomed in silently, hoping to catch a glance, a gesture, a face breaking under pressure. But no one smiled. No one waved. Not after what had just happened inside. Because when Ice Spice looked down and saw her own reflection in the courtroom monitor, right after Cassie's words echoed through the chamber, it hit her like a cold wave. Fame doesn't protect you from the truth. Sometimes it just delays it. Back inside, the judge called a short recess, but Diddy stayed seated. Cassie remained, too, seated in the front row. For the first time since their painful split years ago, they were in the same room, with no music playing between them, no headlines, just history. After a long silence, the judge quietly approached both parties and said, "I'll allow a private 10-minute room if you both agree." They nodded. And in the adjacent chamber, with the cameras off and the world waiting, Diddy and Cassie finally talked. "I didn't expect you to show," Diddy said, voice low, firm, but without anger. Cassie leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "I wasn't going to," she replied. "But then I saw her. Ice. The fear in her eyes. I've seen it before. In mine." Diddy nodded slowly. "You think I wanted to drag her into this?" Cassie looked up. "Number. But I think she needed to be dragged, just like I did once." There was a long pause. Then Diddy said something he hadn't said to her, or to himself, in a long time. "They didn't erase me. They just made me feel like I was erasing myself. And I let it happen." Cassie stepped closer. "You're not the only one they've done that to, but you're the only one who's making them pay attention." Diddy blinked hard. He wasn't crying. But something about that sentence shook him. He reached into his pocket and slid a folded document across the table. "It's a formal motion, something new." Cassie opened it. Her eyes widened. "You're trying to change how brand deals work?" He nodded. "Every celebrity who takes part in someone's erasure, digital or media, should be required to disclose if they benefited from suppressing others. It's accountability by design." Cassie looked at him, and for the first time in years, she smiled. A small one. "You might actually change something this time." Meanwhile, Ice Spice had vanished. No updates, no tweets, no press. Her management posted a 2-sentence update. Ice Spice will not appear publicly until after the court proceedings are resolved. She is focused on reflection and healing. But silence wasn't enough for the public anymore. Fan pages turned cold. Brands paused campaigns. Talk shows dropped upcoming guest slots. A trending hashtag appeared just hours later: "Let legends breathe." People began posting clips of Diddy's career, award speeches, freestyle ciphers, business milestones, with captions like, "This was never old news. This was buried history." Back in court, the judge reconvened. "This session will now hear arguments regarding the proposed motion submitted by Mr. Combs," he said. The motion had a name now: the Legacy Clause. Its goal was simple: force transparency from celebrities and brands. If you profited by positioning yourself against someone else, especially through hidden PR deals, the public would know. A lawyer from a major media conglomerate objected immediately. "This sets a dangerous precedent," she said. "It opens the door to endless blame and disruption of existing sponsorship structures." Diddy's attorney calmly responded, "That's exactly the point. For too long, the system has rewarded silence, rebranded sabotage as strategy, and allowed young stars to build on the shadows of those they erase." The judge paused, then leaned forward. "I've never seen a courtroom story turn into a cultural reckoning, but here we are." The Legacy Clause would take weeks to vote on, but the fact it had been introduced, in a real court backed by real evidence, sent shockwaves. Industry insiders called it career kryptonite and the most dangerous sentence ever written in entertainment law. But to fans, it was justice. That night, Diddy released a statement on his personal blog, This isn't about punishing Ice Spice. It's about stopping this from happening again, and to anyone. She's not the villain. The silence is. In the Bronx, an old mural of Ice Spice, painted just a year ago, was quietly replaced. Local artists painted a new image. It was Diddy. Head up, eyes forward. With the words written underneath, "Legends don't fade, they fight back." It had been 3 days since Ice Spice disappeared from public view. No interviews, no social posts, no court appearances since her emotional testimony. But something shifted in the early hours of that Friday morning. A notification appeared across millions of phones, on Twitter, Instagram, and her website. A post, not a video, not a selfie, just a handwritten open letter titled, "To the man I tried not to compete with, and to the truth I can't ignore." In the letter, Ice Spice's voice sounded different, less defensive, more human. No legal language, no PR polish. Just a young woman who had finally taken off the mask. "I was 19 when I signed my first deal. I didn't ask many questions, I just said yes. I didn't know what the game really was, not until the rules were already rigged. When my team told me Diddy was in the way, I didn't argue. I didn't protect him, I just stayed quiet. I've been rewarded for that silence with magazine covers, playlists, late-night shows. And now, I don't feel proud of what I built. Sean, I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to say it out loud. Thank you for forcing the truth into the room, even when I couldn't." Ice. The letter went viral within minutes. Celebrities shared it. News anchors read it live. Former critics called it the most vulnerable public admission since the trial began. But one person hadn't responded. Diddy. In court that afternoon, the judge received another submission. But this time, it wasn't from Diddy's team. It was from a third-party entertainment law firm known for representing high-profile celebrities and platforms. They requested to speak. The judge approved. The courtroom filled with tension. The lead attorney, a sharp woman in a navy suit, walked to the center and addressed the room. "We represent 17 major record labels and 5 content platforms. We are not here to stop the legacy clause. We are here to support it. With one condition. Let us help write it." Gasps from the gallery. Even Diddy raised an eyebrow. The judge leaned in. "Explain?" The lawyer continued. "We believe in the cause. We've seen how silence is used like a shield, while real artists are pushed aside. But we also know that the clause must be airtight. If we help design it, it won't just be symbolic. It'll be enforceable. It'll stick. This could change everything about how fame operates." For the first time in the entire trial, Diddy smiled. Not for revenge, but because the system was bending, not just reacting. After a brief recess, the court resumed, and a final surprise was announced. The clerk played a voice recording from a Grammy-winning producer, name withheld from public view. But his voice, recognizable to anyone who listened to hip-hop, pop, or soul in the last 15 years. The recording said, "I've produced hits for both Ice Spice and Diddy. I've sat in meetings where teams plotted headlines like they were melodies. I once overheard a conversation where someone said, 'If we bury Diddy deep enough, the new girls can dance on the dirt.' I regret not speaking then. So I'm speaking now." The courtroom didn't clap. But the silence was louder than applause. Outside, news tickers rolled. Legacy clause gaining power. Ice Spice apologizes. Industry watches closely. Diddy receives support from unlikely allies. In the Bronx, a small group of Ice Spice fans lit candles under her old mural. Not to protest, but to say they were listening. A note taped to the brick wall read, "You fell for the system. But at least now, you're standing for something." Back in court, the judge concluded the day with one final statement. This trial is no longer about guilt. It's about clarity. And sometimes, clarity changes more than any conviction ever could. The final day had arrived. For weeks, the courtroom had been more than a place of law. It had become a stage for buried truths, ruined reputations, and unexpected redemption. Now, All eyes were on the judge. But the world's attention? Still centered on two names, Diddy and Ice Spice. Outside the courthouse, crowds had tripled in size. Supporters held signs with phrases like, "Legends deserve light," and "Erase the system, not the artist." But there were others, too. Fans of Ice, young creatives, voices who believed in her apology and hoped for something more than punishment. They wanted change. Inside the court, a heavy quiet wrapped around the room as the judge entered. She looked weary but focused, as if she'd been carrying the weight of a cultural war, not just a legal case. Before anything else, the judge addressed Ice Spice. "Miss Spice," she said gently, "you may speak before I rule." Ice stood. She looked different. No glam, no handlers. Just her. Raw. Honest. "I lost myself chasing something I didn't fully understand," she began. "They said I had to shine. But no one warned me what it meant to shine at the cost of someone else's shadow." She paused, eyes flicking toward Diddy. "I don't want this to be my legacy. I want the truth to be. That I looked away when I should have looked closer. That I said yes to silence, but I say no now." Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't blink them away. "I support the legacy clause. I'll be the first to sign it, if you let me." The room stayed still. Even Diddy seemed frozen in thought. Then the judge turned to him. "Mr. Combs, you may make one final statement." Diddy stood up slowly. The orange of his prison jumpsuit didn't hide his power, but his voice, software, measured, sharp. "I've been erased before," he began. "Not by one artist, not by one brand, but by a system designed to replace voices when they become too honest or too hard to control." He scanned the room. Journalists, fans, even former critics. "I didn't come here to punish Ice. I came here because I was tired of pretending I still existed while the world acted like I was already gone." A ripple moved through the room. Diddy stepped forward. "This case isn't about me being right. It's about making the next generation understand what the game really is, so they can play it better and fair." He raised one folded piece of paper. "This is my final addendum to the legacy clause," he said. "It says that even if someone participates in digital erasure, if they come forward, fully, honestly, they can help fix what they broke, not for fame, but for truth." He handed it to the court. "And Ice Spice is the first name I want added to that amendment." Gasps. Even Ice's legal team looked stunned. "But Ice?" She lowered her head and for the first time smiled through the tears. The judge read the document silently. Then she spoke. "In this courtroom, we often deal in crime, not culture. But today, this room has been transformed by clarity, courage, and accountability." She tapped her gavel once. "The court hereby recognizes the legacy clause as a valid framework. A proposal will be sent to state legal review within 30 days for integration into entertainment contract law." She turned to Diddy. "You will still serve the remaining 60 days tied to your unrelated business violation. But as of now, you leave this courtroom not as a defendant." She turned to Ice. "But as a witness to the truth." Bang! The trial was over. As cameras exploded outside, Ice Spice stepped beside Diddy for the first time. Reporters screamed. Microphones extended. But he didn't look at them. He looked at her and said simply, "Next time they hand you the mic, use it before they use it against someone else." She nodded. And for once, there was no PR team to translate. Just two voices, one rising, one returning, standing side by side, not over each other. Final scene. Weeks later, a panel was held at Harvard on legacy and erasure in modern media. Diddy didn't attend, but Ice did. She read a quote projected behind her. "You don't build a legacy by silencing one. You build it by remembering where yours begins." The crowd stood. Because now, the world wasn't just watching a courtroom. They were watching a culture finally change.